Hello, Tommy. I get my promise in here. I get my promise in here.
I hope you feel your state.
I'm trying to help you while you're here. Trying to help. If you'd like to say anything,
It's yours.
the room is yours. The room is yours.
Welcome to Surviving Evidence with your host, Chris DeCesare, and co-host, Phil Casey. Chris is a New York-based author and respected authority in the paranormal field. His survival of the C2D1 haunting ranks among the most documented paranormal events in history. Chris is known for being someone who has taken the trauma and tragedy of such an experience and turned it into a tale of hope and survival. He is joined by his wingman and longtime friend, Phil Casey, who is also a native of the Empire State. Together, they will bring you engaging interviews with some of the top authors, TV and radio personalities, and paranormal researchers in the field. Now, here are your hosts of Surviving Evidence, Chris DeCesare and Phil Casey on WGOG Digital Broadcasting.
Hudson Valley, New York State. A gigantic welcome to you all. Hello to everyone listening in from this giant spinning globe we call Earth. This is Chris DeCesare, the Ghost of Geneseo, the Sci-Fi Network. You're listening to Surviving Evidence on Let's Talk Radio. At my side, once again, for our weekly hour adventure, my wingman and private Lamaze coach, Mr. Phil Casey.
Breathe. Oh, sorry. I was busy. I was giving a class. Hey, man, how's it going? I'm super excited to be here, and I'm sorry. I got to get my breath back. That was just too much.
Well, you can get your breath, and we can welcome our listeners all across the globe and let them know about the chat room. The radio chat room is, in my announcer voice, www.wgogdb.com. That's www.wgogdb.com. It's a fun place to share your thoughts, ask a few questions, and to meet some interesting people. We'd love to see you there.
And as always, we have our faithful in the chat room right now. We've got Kathleen in there. What's up, Kathleen? Barry Marks and Andrew Knapp and that weird guy, Chris DeCesare. And I see Ariel's in there, and there's that Phil Casey guy. You got to watch him.
Well, if he's there, I might just leave that chat room.
Yeah, you should really monitor that.
I'm going to have to. And before we introduce this evening's guest, it's going to be an exciting show tonight. Phil and I would like to express our ongoing thanks to Mr. Todd Bates. He is the general manager of the Spy Network. He's the gentleman who produces the show, runs the chat room, and creates the majority of advertising, and who, most importantly, has not yet had his office raided by FBI agents sent by Special Counsel Robert Mueller. That's a relief.
It is such a relief because there's pictures and I'm sure other things on there that Todd doesn't want out there. Although, if the Russians are listening, sorry, dude.
Well, see, my understanding, Phil, was that those pictures I sent would be deleted, and apparently they were not.
It's called the cloud?
No, it's called prison. Well, never mind about that. All right, so we want to call your attention to some other fine programs that are hosted here at Let's Talk Radio. Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, our good friend John Tobin brings you Keeping the Spirits Alive. And at 9 p.m., he, the Velvet Voice, Mr. Todd Bates hosts Haunted Voices Radio. If you haven't listened to these shows, you're missing out on some quality programming. Alabama's own Pat Hobson is the host of Paranormal Experienced, which airs Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m. She's one of the best in the business. Paranormal Evidence, Tony Rathman follows at 10 p.m. on Wednesday. Start your weekend off right listening to Ghost Talk with 187 PI, featuring Shelley Bird Robertson, followed by Fate Magazine. It airs on Friday evenings. They're at 8 and 9 respectively. Follow The Path of Discovery with Lisa Victorson, Sundays at 6 p.m. And if you're looking for a radio show to get you prepped and a positive state of mind for the upcoming week, the talented and gifted Ariel Grace hosts a Gang of Girls radio every Sunday night at 8 Eastern Standard Time. But most of all, we want to thank our little listeners who tune in each and every week and drove to see what kind of trouble we're up to now. We'll love you right back.
Absolutely. We want to thank everyone who takes the time of day or night, depending on where you are in the world or country, to be with us. And the Wingman, just big shout out to my daughter tonight because she's out there prepping for her last volleyball tournament. So good luck, Paige.
Good luck, Paige. Phil, guess what time it is?
It is time to go outside for a walk.
No, it's not time to go outside for a walk. It's time for our guest.
Oh, awesome! That's even better because I don't feel like walking. I don't feel like walking right now.
I've seen those videos. Our guest tonight is the owner of Otherworldly Waxes. She's a celebrated spiritual medium who has worked with and read for many individuals and some several missing persons cases.
She has been a practitioner of magical arts and worked in various New York City occult stores for over 25 years.
She specializes in healing others through what she calls candle magic, and she holds roundtables every month to discuss various life topics using a metaphysical perspective.
Topics that include transmuting energy into positive reflections and into our outer reality.
Our guest is the voice behind The Reluctant Spiritualist, which she created in order to help others become more conscious of the thought patterns that are preventing them from reaching their full and unique potential. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, Amy C. Wilson. Hello, Amy.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me. You make
we
me
are
sound
thrilled.
so important.
Well, you are important. Note to self, make guests sound important. Well, this is great for me, especially because once in a while I know somebody before they come on the show, and I've had a chance to meet you on a few occasions, and it makes me happy to know the person I'm speaking with is a very talented, creative, intelligent person. It gives me confidence in our discussion. I want to start off, jump right into this. There are some people who would have no idea what it means to be a spiritual medium, or even they might be, what is candle magic? So maybe you can share with listeners what those terms mean to you.
Well, I think, the terms can mean various things to various people. And spiritual mediumship for me personally means I speak to spirit, meaning ghosts, family members that have passed away. When I do readings for people, I start off doing a psychometry reading where I asked my clients to bring in photographs or items of a deceased family member or friend. And through that, the spirit of that individual will come through to me and will speak to me and help me relate the message from them to my client. So I'm more of a translator of sorts.
Well, that's interesting. So, communication is difficult, just person to person. And what you're talking about is a bit more rare and thus a bit more interesting. So how does Amy understand or discover that she might have this gift or ability?
Well, growing up, my father is a medium as well, and he used to read tea leaves for clients that used to come to the house. And he would actually sit up in the bed in the middle of the night and talk to dead friends and family members, which didn't go over well with my mother, especially in the middle of the night when he's just sitting up talking to her like, hey, I'm talking to Fred. She's like, but Fred's dead. So that didn't go over very well. When I was a child, I always saw things in the shadows. Like, when you're a little kid and you see a shadow in the corner of your room, but it's not a shadow. It's more of like, that's not, that's something else. So when I was a young kid, I would see these shadows. But as I grew older and I was a teenager, my family had moved into a home that was, old farmhouse. And I remember sitting up in the middle of the night, like my dad, and I saw this old woman in a rocking chair. It was kind of like a faded kind of mist of an image of this woman rocking back and forth and knitting. And the next day I took the school bus to school with the granddaughter of the family that used to own the house. And I spoke to her, and I was like, this is what I saw. Mind you, I was not very popular in high school because I would just be like, well, this is kind of normal. And everybody's like, no, that's not normal. So I spoke to the girl I went to school with, and she's like, oh, that sounds like my grandmother. And I told her which room was my bedroom, and apparently my bedroom was her sewing room after the daughters had moved out. And I've always been able to see it. Like, I remember certain incidences when I was a young kid. My great-grandmother was in a nursing home, and I had gone around down the hallway to get, like, I think a soda or a candy out of the vending machine. And I remember seeing my great aunt, who had passed away the year before, dressed in a nurse's uniform, walking down the hall, pushing like a cart or something. And she smiled and winked at me. And then I kind of turned around. I was like, that looked like, my great aunt. And I turned around again, and she was gone. And then the next day, my great grandmother had passed away.
Wow.
So it's always been that kind of thing.
Yeah, so for you, it wasn't necessarily negative. It may be difficult to express to people around you, but most of your experiences were interesting, valuable, meaningful.
Yes.
And that probably had to help with your decision to eventually pursue this as an interest, as a way of life.
Yeah, I mean, it was really actually very positive, like you said, and I wasn't scared of it. Like, for me, it was just a normal thing, like waving hi to your neighbor as you go out to get your post in the morning.
Right.
So when I read for clients, I usually don't, like, negative spirits normally don't come in. And when I do experience negative spirits, I think they're kind of afraid of me. Like, they always, plus I also put a big, strong boundary around me, and they usually stay outside of that. And they just kind of relay their message. Huh?
I think that's very important. People go on a boat, they have life jackets, you in your car, you have a seatbelt. And the concept of putting a barrier of safety around you, of sanctuary, how did that come about in your practice? Did you see that on TV? Was it taught to you by your father, or did you come across that by yourself?
It was more through trial and error. My father, I don't know, because he had stopped reading when I want to say in my late 20s, early 30s. He had stopped getting readings. He had an experience with a client, and he just stopped. And then, to my knowledge, to this day, he has not read since. And I just remember, for me, I never had weird experience with spirits until I actually started working in metaphysical and occult shops in the city, where that kind of attracts all sorts of different types of energy. So when I started my magical practice, I learned how to build energy barriers. But that was so magic focused when I started my training that I kind of carried it over when I started working more in the spirit realm. And I learned a lot how to protect myself. And I always tell my clients, especially when they're experiencing negative things in their home, or even like, it could be spirits or what they deem as poltergeists, or even dealing with negative people. It's like, if you allow your fear to take over, that's the energy that they feed off of. And that's why they become relentless. So a lot of keeping yourself in check and keeping yourself protected from negative energy is not to be in fear of it.
You prevent
the fear is kind of like a little doorway. Yeah. It's just a doorway.
So Amy, this is Phil. How are you? Thank you so much
Phil,
for being on. I'm good. Thank you so much for being on with us. My first question to you is, as a medium, there are very different levels and different types of them. Now, do you see and speak to, or how did you develop into doing that?
When I first really kind of started reading for other people, I would get the audio, clear audio. So I would hear things, and not like a disembodied voice. It's more of like, it sounds like my own thinking, but it's not. Because usually, like, if somebody comes in, it doesn't make sense to me. But then I started with the clear audio. So I would get words. It could be, words, numbers, or groups of words, or like sayings. And then as I actually started practicing more with meditation, different breathing techniques, like yoga, that kind of thing, it started to open up more. I'm trying to remember because it's so long ago when I really started to kind of open up. And then I started to get imagery because I'm an artist by nature. So I automatically get a lot of visuals. So spirits will also, if they can't communicate with me verbally, they'll show me images and things that might not make sense. Like say they want to show me the color pink, but it's a specific type of pink. They might show me like an item that I've seen before, like a pink horse or a unicorn kind of thing. And then they'll show me different objects along with that. So it's kind of like charades almost, but with items.
Okay.
Sometimes I'll.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
No. I didn't want to cut you off.
Oh, well, I mean, as as I've grown over the years, like I'll get scent, taste, even sensations on my skin. I can always tell when a spirit is coming in to talk to me. It's like, even like, people say, oh, my house is haunted. I feel cold spots. Like I'll feel that breeze come in, like under me when spirit comes.
At what age did you really start to hone in on everything?
I wasn't until in my 20s. Like I didn't really know how to, and the house that I grew up in, even though my father did read, and we had readers come to the house and we would go see readers and, we were kind of social in that aspect. I was never really like formally trained until I was in my 20s when I started working in the different stores. I would start to meet different people and reading books and experimenting.
Was there one specific
techniques.
Incident that really made you want to pursue this? Like an incident with like a relative or any?
Well, I didn't really have relatives come in for me particularly. I mean, every once in a while, like, when my great-grandmother had passed away, but usually like relatives didn't come in too much. But what really kind of struck me is when I started getting my guides. And like some people will call them angels or spirits, but they're actually like spirit guides that come in and help you with your work. So I remember when I got my first guide in, it was a little bit weird because their energy feels and senses differently than like having a spirit come in. And that's when I was like, oh, okay, this is new. And guides come in and they're kind of always there, depending upon, it's a whole other conversation, but guides are normally there to help you through situations. And sometimes you have them for long periods of time. Sometimes you have them for short periods of time. But when I first felt my first guide, that's when I really knew that there was something else on the other side of the veil than just what, our 3D reality shows us.
Now, do you just use, what kind of techniques do you use when you do your readings?
Normally, like objects. When I have clients come in, I ask them to bring photographs or pictures of their deceased friend or family member. And it cannot be a hand-me-down item. So like if their friend or mother or grandmother had a vintage item that was handed down or bought in a thrift store, I can't use that because that will pick up on the previous owner's energy as well. Photographs work really great. Usually I like to meet one-on-one in a private room, so I'll have them come to my shop and we'll sit together quietly. And usually they'll come in really fast. But I like to light a candle because the light is like kind of like a homing beacon for them to come. When I like open my mental door, I have the candle to light to show them this is a way if they need to speak, they can speak through me to the client.
Wow, that's. We're gonna get back to that. I have some more questions, especially about a candle. We're gonna take our first station break. You guys are listening to Surviving Evidence on Let's Talk Radio, Clearwater, Florida.
If you call other talk stations, all you get is,
"Hello, we're sorry, but no one is available to answer your call at this time."
but at Let's Talk Radio, we're here for the best talk, news, and information 24 hours a day. Hear it here first or find out about the alien invasion tomorrow from someone else. Depend on us. Let'sTalkRadio.net. Terry Lovelace is a 64-year-old retired lawyer and former assistant attorney general. The earliest alien experience Terry can recall was when he was 8 years old. Incident at Devil's Den. In May of 1963, he saw a UFO and described it as a perfect silver disc. 3 years later, on a clear night, he saw a second flying disc outside his second-story bedroom window. Incident at Devil's Den. In 1975, while serving as a medic in the Air Force, he witnessed yet another UFO hovering 50 feet over an ICBM missile silo. Incident at Devil's Den. 2 years later, while he and a friend were camped in an isolated state park known as Devil's Den, Terry had a life-changing fourth encounter. Not only did Terry and a friend witness an estimated 5-story high UFO, but this fourth encounter would be an epic, life-altering event. Incident at Devil's Den by Terry Lovelace. Digital download or paperback now available on Amazon. Shopping, dining, beautiful lakes and rivers, and a monster? Welcome to Braxton County, West Virginia. Centrally located, Braxton County, West Virginia is the ideal place to visit. Natural beauty and recreation abound with 2 beautiful lakes for easy kayaking and canoeing, and many hiking trails. Did we mention the Flatwoods Monster? That's right. Visit Braxton County, West Virginia's Flatwoods Monster Museum and not only learn about the Flatwoods Monster, but walk in the same footsteps as the people who witnessed it. Nearly all of our attractions can be found within a few miles of Interstate 79. Visit us online at braxtonwv.org. That's braxtonwv.org. Braxton County, West Virginia. Center yourself here. Let'sTalkRadio.net.
And we are back. You're listening to Surviving Evidence on the Let's Talk Radio Network. If you're just joining us, we're speaking with spiritual medium Amy C. Wilson. I want to real quick just recognize for the folks who are out there listening via computer or cell phone, like Barry Ruggiero is out there, Pamela Berry, Douglas Swiss, Keith Ediston, Marcia Moore, Donna Russell Plager, Billy Beeler, Chuck Lehman, Marty Haynes, Charlie Manning, Michael Lewis. Thank you so much for being out there. Really appreciate it. And I want to get us back to our guest, who is fascinating. And one of the things, I want to ask you about is the concept of candle magic. And the reason I want to go there is I've been to your place of business, and it is gorgeous. As I mentioned in the break, it's as though you're an alchemist in the year 1612. There are lights and orbs and candles. Gorgeous. So tell listeners about...
You.
Oh, you're welcome. Candle magic.
Well, candle magic, I've been doing it for about 26 years. I first started, with just the fascination with wax and making candles when I was younger, a teenager, early 20s. And then when I started working in the metaphysical occult stores, I noticed, candles are usually included in many, many, many spells because they're the oldest way, as one of my mentors said, they're the oldest ways to reach the heavens, to speak to the other side. And this is one of the reasons why, and plus it's also an element, it's a fire element, but it's a way to speak to the other side. May it be your ancestors, your spirit guides, God, the universe, source, whatever it is you believe in. And the flame takes your intent or your wish or whatever you choose to call it to the other side for it to be granted. So I've always been interested in candle spells, and I had a friend who taught me how to make candles out of old yogurt containers and how to mix colors and melt the wax, and I read tons of books, and I really got into it. And as I was working in these stores, I noticed like people would carve and write things in them, and it just really fascinated me. And of course, like I was also a customer to many of these stores, and every candle spell that I ever done always seemed to work for me. So this was like the appeal for me, and I worked on the process and just studied with a lot of people who did candle magic work. So when Otherworldly Waxes was passed down to me, I had already worked there for several years. I just kind of wanted to continue that tradition because I almost feel like nowadays spell work is kind of getting a little bit lost or diluted with technology, and you can Google anything now. So that's how I kind of got into it, and I've honestly seen tons of results with clients of mine who come in. I do a lot of mail order, so I have people emailing me with the things that are going on with their lives, and I create a candle for their specific intent. So each candle that I make is made specifically for that individual. Like I make blended oils with different intents and blended incenses with different intents that I also incorporate in the candles that I make. So everything is like it's like own prescription per customer.
So they're customized. And
I find, it's very customized, extremely. And that's kind of like where I want to stay almost. I mean, obviously I want to expand my business and, be successful and all that. But I really like working with my clients and making sure that they're happy with what they achieve with the candles that I do make for them.
I have a question about those candles. They're so beautiful. And this is a beginner's layman question. But does the color or shape or size or varying glass components affect what the candle can do?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Each color represents a different planet, and each planet represents a different intent. Each planet has its own kind of specific focus, so to speak. So like Venus, you would burn a green candle, which is actually for Venus. It's also green is the heart chakra. Some people prefer pink, but you can burn a green candle to attract love.
Okay.
And green is a very strong attractant, so you can burn green to attract money. Or you can burn purple is for the planet Jupiter, which can symbolize justice or success. So each color has a planet, a meaning, and an intent behind it.
And the intents you mentioned seem to be very positive. I want to attract love to my life. I want to be able to survive on my own. Do people sometimes have intents that are not positive?
Yes.
And so how do you handle that?
Well, I tell them flat out, it's something that I don't do. I do have people that I know that do work like that. And I tell them I can refer them to someone else because I just personally don't. I don't believe in manipulating somebody else, like to do your will, like say you're in love with somebody and then you want to burn a candle to make them love you back. I won't do that. I won't do vengeance magic because I explain to my clients when I create a spell for someone, I get a kickback too, meaning the energy that I put out, I also get back. So if I'm out there like whirling around, like sending bad juju out, I'm going to get it right back. I don't want it. It's like the client's going to get it back and I'm going to get it back.
It's like a credit card bill.
It's not worth it to me.
Right. Interesting. Now, as I mentioned, the website is www.otherworldlywaxes.com. Is that correct?
Correct.
And what can people find on that site?
You'll find all the candle spells that I do create. I do a lot of other custom work by request, such as honey jar work, special loaded candles. I do so much, I'm trying to think. I do custom oils that maybe are not listed on the website. I do powders, mixes, remedies, that sort of thing. But the website's mainly focused on the candle magic.
Well, that matches your interest. It's very positive. It's beautiful. So that makes sense business-wise as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now I turn to Mr. Phil Casey.
It could be bad juju.
No,
I'm just kidding. Amy, if one were a novice at candles and wanted to start, what would you recommend for, let's say, me?
Well, I'd say, definitely read up on it. There's a lot of great candle spell books out there. I use Candle Therapy, which I think might be out of print, but you can buy a used copy online. Candle Therapy book is the book that I do use. I do use all the seals and the oils that are recommended in there because Catherine, who founded Otherworldly Waxes, wrote the book. So I know it's available on Amazon used, and I think it's available for Kindle download. Raymond Buckland put a great candle magic book out.
Right.
It has some stuff. Like you could definitely, if you just go to Amazon and you look for candle magic under books, you'll find a bunch of really fantastic books.
So that's great information right there, especially for me. Now, I noticed that you use your candles with deities. Maybe you can explain to our listeners the difference in that.
A lot of my clients work with deity and like different deities. It could be anywhere from Ganesha to Bridget to even Ochun. So my clients will come to me and request a deity candle. And what I do is I create an original seal, which, I can create a couple times, many times over. So I'll create the seal, and what I do is I take the candle and I rub it with the appropriate oil for that particular deity. So I do research on what certain scents the deity would want. So for Ganesha, we have a Ganesha blend that I make, and I rub the candle with the oil. Then I have a blessings incense that I usually use, or I believe an obstacle remover incense as well. So I'll incorporate all of those. And then I'll draw the image, write my client's name and zodiac on it, and decorate it. And then I'll ship it out to my client, or they'll pick it up. And what they do is they burn the candle in honor of that deity because they're doing work with that deity. It's like, burning a candle for a loved one who's passed away to honor them. And that's what the deity candles are for, is to honor the deity or spirit that they're working with.
Now, you mentioned earlier burning the candle to draw in a spirit, kind of give them a guide. I find that interesting because the guy is sitting over there in the corner from me.
I'll wave off there.
Yeah, thank you for waving. If you're not watching on radio, you can't see that. He, in his infinite wisdom to deal with his situation, lit a candle before he started.
Right. Right.
I find that connection. Maybe Chris can dive into that.
Well, I can say quickly that the priest, Father Manning, also lit a candle. And if you ever go to celebrations in different churches or mosques or synagogues, candles are an intimate part of both ceremonies. So I think that's something that's been handed down generation after generation, society to society. But I think it's fascinating that you focus on that in such a very positive way.
Yeah, I go down to Graymore down in Garrison, New York a lot. And I'll go in the little shrine there and I'll pray and do that as well. And that's all filled with candles, and those are all prayers, intense.
Right.
So there's something about the flame, the smoke, the scent that attracts spirit. I mean, I couldn't tell you like the exact reason why they're attracted, but it seems to work. Like I always find when I go to churches or shrines where they don't have the real candles and they have the ones that, you just turn on.
The quarter in. Yeah.
Push the button.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't have that same feeling. Like I can sense when there's something there. And there's things there, but it's like I don't sense that connection with true spirit or true source when I'm in those places.
I agree with you. In fact, I asked a minister about that recently, and he said the reason why they no longer have the active candles and they have the actual push-button lights is because of insurance, of the fear of fire burning down. So it's kind of tough that litigation becomes part of that, where it takes away some of the essence of that activity.
My husband and I just recently built a cement shrine in our home because when I work with clients, a lot of clients can't burn candles in their home. So I burn them in my home and I continue the work for them. And I send them pictures, updates of like how their candle's burning and everything. But I have a shrine it's all cement and I do my offerings. I give them food, coffee, wine, cigarettes, whatever they're asking me for. And I do it that way. And there's just that energy, like you can feel it like pulsing outside the door when you walk by. There's something about that flame that attracts.
Now, I know, Amy, that it's hard to give an exact answer to this next question, but maybe a ballpark figure is good. You can go out and buy a car and spend it from $5,000 to $60,000. If someone wanted to purchase a candle from you that you've created and customized for them, what are some of the price ranges and or options they might have?
Well, my basic, it's not really basic, but my basic 7-day candles are my most popular candles. And that's for any intent. It could be love, money, career, health. I just charge $30. Either it be, I call them generic, where I don't put anyone's name or zodiac sign on it. And some people buy the generic ones to kind of give as a gift. Right. Or when I work with the client, which I prefer, I sit with them and I carve it and we work together and put it together. Because my candles include pennies, so I give pennies to the client and they make wishes on their pennies and put it in the glass.
Oh, that's cool.
And so either it be like a generic shelf when you just pull off the shelf, or if it's something that I'm working with someone, it's just $30 plus tax and shipping, depending upon if they're picking it up or having it shipped.
And does your shop have particular hours?
I'm mostly mail order, so okay. I open once a month or by appointment.
Okay.
So I open once a month to the general public. It's usually every third Saturday of the month, unless I have a festival that weekend. So every third Saturday of the month from 1 to 5 in the afternoon. And you can come in, you can shop, you can just look around, or you can just sit. I have a table in the middle of the room. Or if you just want to sit and like look through the books or just soak in the rays of the candle, you can.
And
or
this
just
is in Beacon, New York. Right, Beacon?
Yes, in Beacon, New York, yes.
Okay.
And then I do by appointment. That's when most of my clientele will come in because it's, a lot of people are dealing with personal things. They feel more comfortable talking one-on-one. And everything that I discuss with my clients is obviously confidential. So I don't go blather and be like, did you hear so-and-so, blah, blah, blah.
I did hear that, actually, yes.
Yeah.
But then I also... Yeah. I also do a lot of public events, so I travel around a lot. This year, I'll be in Pennsylvania, obviously New York State and Connecticut, and I've only booked, I think, up through September. So I haven't even touched like the Halloween season yet. I have a lot of events lined up for that, but I have to figure out my schedule still.
Absolutely.
And all that you can find on my website too.
Okay, so that'll be on the website as well. A question for you now regarding the concept of free will versus spirit guide advice. There are some people I know.
Favorite.
Some people I know will devote themselves entirely to everything that's given to them in terms of advice. Others say, well, I'll run it through some kind of, strainer of logic. Others say, well, you really can't listen to those things. It could be your own subconscious. How do you, as a spiritual medium who's experienced, navigate or balance free will versus spirit guide advice?
Well, fate and free will, I mean, it's one of my favorite topics because I actually believe in them both.
Okay.
And I believe I also believe in reincarnation. So I believe, you choose to come back to this planet or the 3D world or the mundane world, whatever you choose to call it. And you choose to come back to work out certain situations, your karma, whatever you want to call it, for your spiritual growth. So I believe you have this path that you need to stay on. This is your fate. But you have free will. So you can zigzag, spiral around, jump up and down, go sideways, backwards, forwards. But you always kind of get pushed back onto that path. So you can go all the way over to the farthest left and you come back around again, but you'll end up on that path. And you can totally ignore what you feel that you need to do in your life, but you'll always kind of keep repeating the same situations, like dating that same person over and over and over again and not breaking that cycle, or working for the same type of boss over and over again, not breaking that cycle. Because awareness is actually the key to breaking those cycles. And a lot of people seek awareness through either it be, spirituality, therapy, any sort of thing like that. Can kind of help you break those negative patterns and kind of get you back on track.
I think it's great that you apply the concept to active action, where it's practical. And 2 quick questions for you for the chat room, Amy, and they're related. Kathleen asks, where in Pennsylvania will you be? And Barry asks, where in upstate New York will you be? Any clue about that?
Off the top of my head, and I have to bring up my schedule.
Maybe Quiznos. Quiznos has a great sub sandwich right now. It's for $9.95. You can. No, that's not true.
That's expensive.
It is, but it comes with a side dish.
Oh, okay.
It better be a good sandwich. Seriously.
Yes, I hope so.
Better feed me itself.
Huh? What is that? I don't even. What?
So in Pennsylvania,
Excellent.
I will be at the Haunt Fair, and that will be in Matamoros, Pennsylvania.
Oh, Matamoros. That's on the New York border.
Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's where I'll be on September 8th.
Okay.
And then in Connecticut, I'll be at the Soul Light Expo in Bristol, Connecticut.
That's where SportsCenter's out of.
That's right. It's not too far. Those aren't too far from us.
No.
It's about 45 minutes one way and an hour or so the other.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We're like in the middle. Amy, I have one question before we jet into our next break. And how difficult is it when you're at an event to focus on a client with all the other people or different mediums in the room?
For me, it's very hard. If I've stopped doing psychic fairs. I used to do them years ago out in Long Island in the city when I used to live in the city. And I find it very hard, especially when you put a group of readers in a closed room. I would sit there and I'd try to focus on the client, and then, the couple tables over, somebody's grandfather's come over and be like, hey, can you tell them? And it's like, no, you gotta go. Focus on the client. So for me, they just kind of flock to me, and it's a little annoying. I don't mean, but when I'm actually vending at events, which is what I do now, when I sell the items that I make, I do feel spirit, and people's spirits and families and other spirit guides and all that stuff. I do feel it, and I try to honor and respect them. And if they come my way and I acknowledge them, in my mind, I ask them to kindly mind their space. And I said, if it's really important, then I'll go over and I'll tell someone. But I'm not like the Long Island medium where I start reading people.
That was my next question. Do you randomly, if you're in Wegmans or one of those shopping places and you pick up something?
I normally don't say anything to people. Like if I'm at a store or something and something comes through, because that does happen. And if it doesn't leave me alone, I may say something, but normally I ask them to kindly step aside, because I just don't feel it's appropriate, and people kind of look at you like you're crazy, and it's like, I already got the crazy looks. I don't need any more people looking at me like I'm nuts.
I try to be very difficult sometimes.
Yeah, and I try to respect other people's, privacy. It's, it's not really my business unless they come to me and ask.
And on that, my business is it's break time, so we're going to go to a break. You guys are listening to Surviving Evidence. We'll be back in a few on letstalkradio.net.
Recorded and regurgitated radio. WGOT DB Clearwater. Let's talk. Keep your online visitors engaged with Rumble Talk chat service. With over 2 million chatters on over 200,000 websites, Rumble Talk is a proven professional chat room service. With an easy-to-install Rumble Talk chat room, you can share rich media, chat on the go from your mobile phone or tablet, integrate on popular social media pages, blogs, mobile apps, and websites. Add a stylish HTML5 Rumble Talk chat room theme or create your own custom Rumble Talk chat room. Rumble Talk gives you the ability to control any aspect of your chat room's appearance, images, colors, backgrounds, borders and fonts, and overall style. With Rumble Talk's easy account management, you can manage all your Rumble Talk chat rooms from one account. Now that you've found your chat room solution, visit rumbletalk.com for your free 7-day trial today. Your visitors are waiting. Rumble Talk chat service. rumbletalk.com. In 2012, Keith Linder, after successfully obtaining a management position at a prestige healthcare company, decides the time is right for him and his girlfriend to move in together. That's putting things lightly. Weird things begin to happen within days of moving into the modern suburban home. The horrors they witnessed and desperately tried to fight off would end up putting them at the odds with members of the paranormal community and themselves. This gripping story, told from the house occupant's point of view, not only lists tales, but also includes pictures, video reenactments, commentary, and audio of the events being reported. Author Keith Linder does not ask you to believe him. He only asks you to listen. The Bothell Hell House by Keith Linder, now available on Amazon. The book, The Bothell Hell House. The author, Keith Linder. Order yours today on Amazon.
The weather outside is cold, but we're smoking hot.
Hot damn.
WGOT DB Clearwater. Let's talk.
To Surviving Evidence. We're down to our last 12 minutes or so. I want to thank you for listening. We're speaking with spiritual medium Amy C. Wilson. Her website is www.otherworldlywaxes.com. And springboarding, Amy, off of Phil's last question, it seems to me that if someone is gifted in terms of understanding thoughts and feelings and knowing what happens, it might create certain challenges in one's own personal relationships. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I can. I definitely can. Relationships get really tricky with friendships, even, more personal relationships. It's funny, when my husband and I started dating, I didn't know where he lived. We both lived in the city at the time. And I challenged him. And this is like way before, well, not way before the internet, but the internet was not very popular. It was like 2001 we started dating. So we're walking through the city, and I said, if you take me to the intersection of, where you live. I can tell you right where your apartment building is. And he's like, okay. So I started walking, and I think he was, just a while ago, I think he was like, I want to say 13th Street between like 1st and 2nd or something like that. So I started walking, and I started walking down his block. So I'm like watching his face. And we get to the middle of the block, or about almost the middle of the block, and I pointed across the street. I was like, you live over in that building. And he turns and he looks. He's like, I don't live over there. And I just started walking up the steps to his building. So like, I actually found the building and started walking up the steps. And he was just like,
he's in trouble.
And yeah, no, exactly. It's like, we've only been out on a couple dates. So you sure you want to do this?
Yes.
I mean, and I found myself, sometimes I'll finish people's sentences. I had mentioned before, like, I'm not really fun to party with because I will say things that are planted in people's deep minds that maybe weren't supposed to come out with my dark sense of humor. So, yeah, it's hard because when I meet people for the first time, I can see a lot of what's happened in their life, especially like if they're down with the woo-woo as I call it. I can see, like, I know who's has psychic abilities and
what's the woo-woo? What is
that's what I call like I call the magic and
okay,
anything spiritual.
I'm like, what's that, ladies?
I want to be part of that group. That's a cool name. Woo-woo.
Thanks.
Yeah, I was like, I'm like, you're just down with the woo-woo. I actually had a doctor. I was years ago I was going to this therapist, and I'm sitting there, and I keep looking at him, and like I just knew because there's a certain particular look, or like this twinkle I call it, in people's eyes, if they have like any sort of psychic ability, maybe just very I don't know, generic, or they're totally out there and they can see past the universe. But I can see that in their eye. And so I had this therapist, and one day I was just like, are you psychic? And he was like, yes. How did you know? I'm like, I knew it. I knew it. I could see it. Yeah. So, it's like I pick up on that. Like I had an art show that I was a part of yesterday, and I'm talking to people, and I'm in a small space, and I can just start to see, like, their stories or their things or whatever. And this other woo-woo person came in that I never met before. And I immediately knew, and I had sent a text to my friend who curated the show. I was like, is so-and-so down with the woo? She's like, well, yes, she is. And I'm like, I knew it. I still got it. Yes.
So a question about that. Becoming down with the woo, we have a question from the chat room, Barry. And it reads, do you think it is possible to develop sensitivity with the spirit world? For instance, my last attended Spirit Circle event at my old workplace at the Welch Allen building, I was hearing things that no one else heard except for a medium that was seated next to me. Can someone develop the woo?
I honestly believe everyone is born with these abilities because, your soul is passing from one side to another when you're born. Or wherever the soul comes in during the pregnancy or whatever. So I believe everyone has these abilities built in. I just think whatever life circumstance, upbringing, or whatever kind of tames it all down, because everybody has that intuition and that gut feeling. I've never met anyone who didn't have an intuition or gut feeling. Right there is the foundation of the woo. So I think when you practice and you develop it and you allow it to come in is when you start to build on it. And I believe anybody can. And especially like if you're surrounded by a lot of spiritual people or psychics or mediums or anyone who kind of works in that realm, it's kind of for lack of a better word, it's kind of like a virus, and you can grow from there because your energy starts to feed, especially if you do like group circles, like your energy will start to mix and things will start to open up that way.
What a happy good virus, right? Happy good virus?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, good, thank you.
Not like Resident Evil.
Right.
It's not like cooties.
Okay.
right, or Zika, right, yeah.
Yeah, I don't like the cooties. Amy, I have one last question for you. Without actually divulging too much personal information about me, I want to know if the woo is there.
Well, I looked at a picture of you. I think it is. I see it. I definitely think it is. I also feel that, you're holding back a little bit. There's really nothing to fear.
Bing, 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 bing.
Okay. The reason why I asked is now you would be the fourth person to tell me that I'm holding it in. And I don't know necessarily want to.
I'm going to sing to you. In the woo, woo, woo. In the woo. That song? Sorry.
I definitely want to be down with woo. I don't know. It's weird. Like, because I definitely hear, like, at night, I'm a disembodied voices kind of guy. I hear music and stuff like that at night when it's really quiet. And I know there's nobody there but my family and my kids. So, thank you for that answer. Maybe we'll talk off and you can.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll
help you and I'll hold your hand.
Is that something they have to do on their own, or you're good at this? You're experienced.
Yes.
Can someone on their own?
Well, I mean, I try to give the forewarning. Like attracts like. Now, if you're really like a brooding, down, kind of angry, upset kind of person, and you're kind of grumpy or whatever, that's the type of energy you're going to attract to you. If you are a bit lighter, more airy, more light in personality, you don't necessarily have to be positive and everything. It's like, live, laugh, love, that kind of thing. It's like if people, I always tell my students, magic is a light touch. And also with any sort of psychic or spiritual mediumship that you want to do, always use a light touch. And when you basically will ask, if you want to get in touch with the other side or your guides, what I basically do is I tell my students, you ask nicely, say spirit, source, God, whatever it is you believe in, please help me open up my psychic abilities. And always please be gentle, clear, and loving. Because when you ask the universe of something, it will give it to you. But sometimes it will slap you really hard in the face. So always ask gently, lightly, and kindly. Please show me and make me aware.
Well, thank you for that, because I kind of think that was my biggest fear, was being slapped in the face.
I'll do it.
And it does.
Sorry.
It does happen. It does happen. That's why I always say, when you're asking, ask nicely and ask to receive nicely. And it won't be so hard. And then when things start getting crazy, just drop me an email.
Thank you for the advice.
Very fair. And Amy, something you just mentioned a few moments ago, that like attracts like, that's the same exact statement that Lorraine Warren made to me back in my college days at Geneseo. And people might think that sounds too simplistic, but there's a truth to it. There's an inherent truth to it. And when you say like attracts like, we like you. And we're glad you came on the show tonight. Very honored.
I love you guys. You guys are great. Thank you.
Absolutely. And we thank you for being on again, Amy C. Wilson. Her website is www.otherworldlywaxes.com. We welcome you. Join us next week when we have the late actor Charles Heston on the show. No, I'm just kidding. Have a great night, everyone. Be safe.
Thank you very much.